Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Irene.
Thank you very much. So we can wait for 1 or 2 minutes for more people to join in.
No, let's continue for purposes of
Okay.
those who joined early.
Okay. So once again, allow me to welcome you to this training. And we can start by introduction. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Irene Miyako. I'm going to be the facilitator for today's training. And before we kickstart, I would request, if it's okay, then maybe you can say something, or I just go straight to the training.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I can actually see there is Leah, and there is, let me see. Let me see. Okay, fine. I can see we are 6 of us. This is a very important topic on how to successfully implement people analytics. Because, as it has been said, it is the high time HR people learn the language of numbers, such that when we are doing our presentations, we are able to link what we are saying with the numbers. So it's kind that all we do are stories. So, Madam Irene, I would suggest that you move on with the training. I'd request everyone to participate actively so that this training becomes as interactive as possible. We all have to learn from one another. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And like you rightly said, I think it's a high time the HR people will start talking numbers. And I'm sure as we're going to interact and sharing, you realize there's power in numbers. And that's why this training is very important. And I do believe we're going to interact and learn from each other. And for purposes of the training, just to inform you that it's being recorded, and I hope that is okay with everyone. So as we start our training on how to successfully implement people analytics, I would want to pose a question to all of us. And my question is that I believe when you heard about this training, there's what came to your mind. And for us to just share, what are your expectations in reference to this training? What do you expect to get out of this? What do you want to take home? So I will open it up to the participants, and you can just unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and tell us what are your expectations. And I'll open it up. And normally if people don't talk, then I call them out. So it's open, kindly. What are your expectations on this training? When you got logged into this, what do you expect to take home? Over to you, participants. Anyone who'd like to volunteer? Let's see, we have Collins, there's Leah, there's Lucy, there's Carol. Collins, you don't want to say something? What are your expectations? Or Lucy can help you.
Maybe I can
Yes, Leah.
comment. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Mine is to find out if the way the analytics are being done has changed. So I'll be looking for more of what's new in the analytics for HR.
Okay, thank you so much, Leah. So for you, your expectation is to get what has changed or the trends that you're currently having in terms of people analytics. And I'm sure that is going to be covered in our participation. Okay, thank you so much for that, Leah. Anyone else who'd want to add something? Okay, so with that, I want to appreciate Leah for that input. So I will go straight to the objectives of this training so that even once who've not said something, then we can be sure that we're on the same line and that your expectations will actually be accommodated. So the first, so as an introduction, why this training came up is because, like we all agree, analytics is a way to grow, especially in our HR profession. And I know we have been in boardrooms whereby you've been challenged with a number and you're trying to justify something, but you're not able to do it. And you've been told to go back and prepare a better report and supporting it with numbers. So that is why we thought it is good to have this training. And we do hope that we're going to be able to be addressing the business challenges that we'll be having in our organization, because we're going to understand the data sources that we can have, or those that we already have, and start utilizing them and communicating accordingly. So more specifically, we are going to define what people analytics is and its importance and benefits for us as HR people and the business outcomes that are expected. We're also going to identify the steps and the components of a guide to implementing people analytics, because we agree maybe some of us already have a system in place, some may not have. So we are going to look at those components, and those who have maybe would want to know what can we do to improve ours, or are we on the right track? We're also going to look at something in terms of applying guide to implementing people analytics to various HR and business scenarios. And in this area, I will really request that we participate by giving examples of what is actually happening in our current business offices or scenarios. We're going to go through one or two tools or methods to collect and analyze data for your people analytics when you're on the projects. And the tools that you're going to go through are not just everything. We've just picked a few. Then the rest are, I believe, based on the needs, then because they differ, as we all agree that each organization is unique. And then finally, we're going to look at how you use our people analytics insights to inform and influence our decision and actions. So it is my hope and my expectation as the facilitator that these objectives are going to be achieved. So to just go as we start within this training, I just want to ask, if somebody was to ask you, what is people analytics? If today I was to give an examination and you're asked, what is people analytics? What would be your response? Kindly, again, let's participate. We agreed we're going to participate. So, and I always say in adult learning, there's no wrong answer. All answers are correct. What matters is the perspective. So don't shy off, just feel free to tell us what you understand by people analytics. Just unmute yourself with no criteria, and anyone can tell us something. Kindly, someone volunteer. What is people analytics? Who don't want to try? Leah, you don't want to try?
Maybe I should be able to say that analytics come from trends observed over a period of time. The period of time can vary from short to long. So it is that record of a certain trend that's in any particular area, and it has been recorded, and you want to look at that trend then to inform you of some of the outcomes that you are observing. Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely. Thank you so much for that input. We're looking at the trends and they enable us to make decisions. And I like what we say, it can be short term, it can be long term, it can be medium term. So also the period is also a determinant in terms of the people analytics. Thank you for that. McKenna, do you want to tell us something? What is your understanding of the people analytics? There's McKenna, there's Jonathan. Any one of us can say something. What Leah has told us.
So from my side, if I join the two words, that's people and analytics, I would say this is the information or data which help to calculate, that is collected to check the impact of the people, for example, in an organizations.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. I love that approach. You pick the two words and you define them as they are. Yes, you're right. It's the data that is used in when we're making decisions. And I think for that, you're able even to answer part of the next question, which was benefits of people analytics. So from that input, allow me to just go to what we have in terms of our definition for people analytics. And people analytics is a practice of collecting. So this is where we collect data, applying organizational people and talent data. And this is to improve critical business outcomes. And basically, it enables HR departments to develop data-driven insights to improve performance of an organization. And like for me, the key word there is the data-driven insights or data-driven reports. You agree with me that in the past, HR reports have been very, it's just there's no data, there's not even a graph. I think the only graph you'd find, maybe it's the people who have come in and the people who have left, but there's nothing apart from it. It's so theoretical. But now with the people analytics, it helps you to be able to get or develop data-driven insights. And I'm sure, like Leah has said, they're currently having some data analytics system, is that it really helps you even get solutions to problems. It helps you to foresee problems that the organization may face in future if not well taken care of. So that is what people analytics is. So it's basically collecting. So you collect the data of all the employees that you have, of all the staff, of all the stakeholders. You can extend it to the stakeholders that you have. So you collect that data, and that data you use it and you are going to apply it in all decisions that you need to make. And you realize the moment you embrace the people analytics concept, it becomes so easy, even when you're making a very simple discussion. But that is only possible if you implement it successfully. Because again, you can have the data analytics system, but if it's not well implemented, then it does not give you the results that you'd want. And you agree with me, especially if it's a system that you're putting in place, there is a cost to it. So the organization or the senior people, the stakeholders, expecting some return on investment. So if you don't implement it successfully, then what is going to happen is that you're going to have a system, but you're not able to drive what you'd want to get out of that system. So in terms of the benefits, like how we had rightly said, I think in the discussion it came in, is that one, is that it improves talent acquisition. And I want to pause there and ask ourselves, how does it improve talent acquisition? Yes, it's a benefit. So how does it improve talent acquisition? Who do want to try? Like I said, all answers are correct in adult learning. How does people analytics improve your acquisition of talent as a HR practitioner? Open to the participants. Kemunto, there's someone Kemunto?
Yes, hi, good morning.
Morning to you.
Well, I would say that it improves talent acquisition because then you are able to check probably what sources of talent acquisition you use. It's able to give you more insight on what you need to do to improve on your data acquisition, on your talent acquisition processes, starting from your sources of talent to all the way to I guess that and how you're able to attract the talent before they get into your organization. So I guess you can check that. You can use your data to check when we recruited using probably social media, how many skilled candidates did we get for this role? If we used referral, what was the success rate, or what were the challenges? If we used universities or professional institutions. So I guess you can use the results from that to make an informed decision for the next talent that we're going to try and acquire, that we're going to acquire, depending on the level. This is the source that we should probably use more. Yeah, that's my thinking.
Absolutely. And I love your thinking, it's very correct. It helps you because, like you're saying, if it was referral you want to check, you'll check from the system and ask yourself, last time when we got referrals, how many of these referrals have been with us? Is this mode of recruitment working? If it was advertisement, I mean, how did it go? The applicants that we got, did we have others that we said maybe we can put this on hold? So it really helps you. And of course, you see, when it improves your talent acquisition, then the turnaround also is improved. And that becomes like a plus to you as a HR practitioner. So thank you so much, Kemunto, for that. Then the second one is that it improves retention. Who don't try and tell us what they think about people analytics improving the staff retention in any organization? Just go ahead and say, don't shy off.
I would say in terms of retention, once you have this data that has been collected, you're able to know what might be the problem that has been leading to turnover, so that you can be able to solve it and sort it so that the turnover gap is managed, as well as not having a high turnover. So most staff are retained, since now the data itself has to solve the problem.
Thank you, Jonathan. I agree with you that it helps you know the reasons as to why we're having the exits. And it's also a way it can help you conduct your exit interviews. Then from there, you're able to see what are these areas that are making people leave our organization. That way, you're able to put in place mechanisms or strategies that are going to retain staff. The other thing that I'd want to add is that how it will going to improve retention is that I, as a staff, we're able to see, like, since you have the data, you're able to look at your population. You're able to know, like, now I know we're dealing with very different generations in our workplace, the diversity. So we have to embrace all the generations, whereby you're having like 4 or 5 generations working in one organization. So you can imagine from your people analytics, you're able to ensure that you have in place strategies on retention that will ensure that each and every generation is well taken care of. Because if you don't do that, then you may find that either you're losing one generation or another generation is really, so it really helps you to put in place strategies that are going to ensure that your retention of staff is very well improved. And since it's also a very interactive, once you put the system in place, it's a very interactive system. You're able to carry out a customer satisfaction or staff satisfaction survey, which gives you feedback, So that is how it's going to improve on your retention, just to add to what Jonathan has said. And the third one is that it gives you real-time information. And you agree with me that at times, as HR, you get some phone calls and you're requested for some data. And it may take you, and somebody on the other side assumes you as HR should be knowing it often. Like the other day, we were somewhere and somebody was asking, Atta, what is your annual budget in terms of your training? And as much as you have a training budget and you're being asked in terms of utilization, you may know, like this year I have, let's say, like, for illustration's sake, allow me to use a nice figure since we love training, but nobody always encourages us, or some organizations will really be really tough on that budget. So you have like 10 million as your training budget for the year. And just someone just calls you and tells you, okay, so you're discussing, it's like, but then what is your utilization percentage? And you're like, oh my goodness, who has gone for training this year? But with the people analytics system in place, it's just at a click of a button. You're able to go to the training module and you're like, who has gone for training? How much did it cost? So it really helps you have real-time information. Another question I find times we struggle with, and this is for me as a person, we agree we have people coming in and people going out. So somebody just call and ask, by the way, what is the percentage of the gender, like the female, this age, things that in your mind, you have a figure, but you're really not sure because you don't want to give a figure that is not right. So you're like, give me some time. And to you, if maybe the system has not been updated or it's in the middle of the month, because you see most of us, excuse me, most of us HR people, since we prepare the monthly reports, you find that at the end of the month, we have all the data. But in the middle of the month, we are like, data is everywhere. It's not well collated. But with a good people analytics system, you're able to provide that real-time information. The fourth one is that it enhances employee experience. This is whereby with a good people analytics system in place, your employees have a good experience. You're able to interact real time. I have seen organizations whereby an employee can just chat, will just start a chat. And with this AI is really coming to take up and, of course, improve our systems. And they'll ask all kinds of questions. It's already set your system, the frequently asked questions. And the staff will be able to be responded to. The things that as HR we think are automatic, but you realize to staff they're not automatic. An example is that a staff will call and ask you, what is my medical cover limit? And this staff has been there like maybe like 2, 3, 4 years. And every year, once you renew your medical cover, you communicate to staff, you tell them this, it is on their emails, it's on their SMS platform, but they'll still call and find out. But when you have a good people analytics, instead of calling, they just go to the system, maybe just put a chat. And since, most people ask this question, it comes very automatically. And you see, we are told as HR, when people are happy, then for us, we're happy. And that's why you find of late, if I know they're saying the terms of the profession, the HR title evolving, you're finding that some organizations are not calling the HR people as their chief happiness manager. You find yourself that you're a happiness manager because you want to make people happy. But how can you make them happy if you don't have, the experience is not good? And you agree with me, even if you have a friend or you have a colleague, and they make your work very easy. When you have a challenge, assume you go to finance. There's someone who will always sort you out nicely in a way, in a professional way. You'll be happy. So when you have a people analytics system that is well interactive to the staff, that the staff feel they can get the information, they can get through to the HR, and we can be able to break that ice you find like in organizations, most organizations, there's that ice between the staff and HR, where people feel when HR calls you, the house is burning. When you get a phone call from the HR, you're like, oh my goodness, what have I done wrong? And maybe it's just something, it just maybe there's something you want to update in their system. So it's going to enhance people experience. It's going to enhance how you interact with people, because at any given time you can start a chat with the staff, just how you doing, how is your day to day, those. And like today, I appreciate the staff engagement. Most organizations are now embracing the staff engagement strategy because it's really working, because it helps in the experience. So when you have a good people analytics, you're able to tell yourself, what is the experience of our staff? The last time we did this, how did they react? And since we're saying we're getting real-time information and there's a good employee experience, then you're able to know, can I change something, So that is one of the benefits. And why I've emphasized on that point is because if you have a positive employee experience in any organization, then that is a very major achievement. And I think all of us as HR, that is always our biggest achievement. And that is what we strive to achieve. The other benefit is identifying the skill gaps. And maybe I would ask someone what they imagine or what is the understanding on how do we start to benefit as HR when we have the people analytics, and we are saying that one of the benefit is to identify the skill gaps. Open to the floor. Thank you to the new people who are joining in. Welcome. And to the new people, we've said in adult learning, everything is right. So don't shy off. Be open to share. So we're at number 5, identifying the skill gaps. How does this help us as HR people when we have people analytics system? Paris, you don't want to try? Paris, or can be assisted by Lillian? Or anyone else who feels inspired to share with us as Paris and Lillian prepares for the next one? Even if you've said something, it's always good to share information. Just unmute yourself and say something. Leah, you don't want to say something on this?
No. I think in that area, it is the most assumed area in terms of what the reactions of HR, which is the most assumed area. So I believe this is the area that can actually tell us even how productivity is affected, because most of the line managers wants to see what is the contribution of HR. When you go with this data, then maybe will become more credible. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Leah. And I love the word productivity, because you find like most organizations, they're very keen about productivity. And I think now that is the latest productivity. But at times you don't have the right skills, whatever you're expecting from someone, maybe things have changed. When you hired this person, they had this skill. Maybe you don't have a learning and development plan. So the same skills that this person came in are the same skills they have, but there's expectations for them to improve on productivity. So the system of the people analytics is a good tool because it helps you identify any gap that you may be having. And the beauty of this is that once you identify the gaps, then you're able to put in place a good training plan. Because based on the gaps that you have identified, then you put in place a training plan. And the beauty is that based on the gaps that are there, you find some of the gaps are they run across organizations. So you can just have like a one training for maybe, let's say, like for the supervisors, maybe you realize that we're having a supervisory gap in terms of how people are communicating, in terms of what they're performing, or how they are performing in terms of evaluating their performance appraisals. And you just put in place and you're like, wow, let's have a performance appraisal training for all the supervisors. So it really helps you identifying the skill gap that you have. Also, you find maybe there's a person who has been placed in a job and maybe they're not good. There's a skill that is missing. Okay, they say attitude is everything. And we're told if somebody has a positive attitude, then they're going to learn. So this is right. I agree. It really helps because at the end of the day, what we want to achieve is maximum productivity from our staff. And that is the last one because productivity is everything. Because every organization, the output of all the resources that have been put in place is productivity. So whatever investments you have a good talent mechanism of acquiring talent, you've retained them, you're able to get real-time information, the employees are well, they feel they have a good experience when they're interacting with HR, when they're interacting with the system. You're able to identify your skill gaps and put in place a training plan that supports the gaps that are there. Then better productivity will be harnessed. So those are the benefits of the people analytics. And like you can see, they're very heavy. So if you're planning to sell this, in every proposal, you have to write the benefits or you have to try and get the buy-in. So one of the buy-in is giving the benefits and now showing how they're going to help this organization into the next level. Because at times when you're trying to sell, even like when you go to the market and you're trying to sell assume they have apples, you have to ensure that the person who is buying believes that they're going to be sweet, even if they've not eaten them, right? So these are the benefits that we can use. These are the positives that we can use in terms of people analytics. So as we continue, then now we're going to go to the real gist of understanding and how we can successfully ensure that we implement people analytics system. And what we're going to do right now is just offer a guide. We're going to give a guide on how we implement the people analytics. And as we go through this guide, like you realize, I'm going to seek even more interactions with you because this is how we learn. We learn from each other. And especially if you currently have an online, there are those organizations that have online and they already have embraced a system. There are those who are still doing it maybe manually through the available tools that we have. So let us share and see what has worked for you and how we can help each other in ensuring that we get it right. So as I go to that, I just want to pose a question and ask, is there anyone among us whom in their organization, they have a system, an online system on people analytics? Anyone? Anyone? And if they can share with us some insights or how they went through implementing the people analytics system? Okay. My assumption is that we all want to learn, but what I'll tell you and what you'll see is that it's something that we have been doing, something that we do, is only that now we need to do it in a more structured way. And like you realize, when we're introducing, because we want to introduce this analytics in our organizations, and those ones who already have, okay? So you realize that it is a process. When you want to introduce the HR analytics, is a process, and this is a guide on what needs to be done. And like you realize from this guide, we also have people who are involved. And when you look at this is a summary, and we're going to go through it one by one up to the last step, is that you realize in the first 4 steps, it's basically our role as HR people. Then you realize the other 4 steps. You have to work with the IT people because this is a system. And I believe most of us have been operating on the 1 to 4 step. And now what we want to do is to have a system that is going to help us. And what we are going to do as we interact with this step is that we'll go step by one, we'll go step by step, we go interact with step number 1, the next step, and we share and ask ourselves, what can we do? Can we try and define the KPIs? Can we try and just do it practically and ask ourselves, in case today, as to introduce a HR metrics, a HR people analytics in my organization, what would I do? And at this point, I just hope that we all have maybe a pen and a paper, because I will be requesting that we just list them down, then maybe you can be able to share with us as the participants. So the approach that I would want to take is that I will go through the steps, then at any end of one step, then we can be able to just ask ourselves, just to do a recap on the step number 1, or maybe the previous step. So we're going to start with the first step, which is whereby we are supposed to choose the metrics. Or if you can allow me to just briefly just give a summary, so at least we can start preempting or thinking ahead of what we do anticipate from this participation. So the first step is where we are going to be selecting the metrics and the KPIs. The second step, we're going to define the data sources. That step is whereby we're going to make a decision on whether we need an off-the-shelf or want to customize our tools. The third step is whereby you define and gather a team, because like you realize, putting this in place is a project, therefore you require a project team. Step number 5 is whereby we're going to set up data and the infrastructure. This is where now you bring in the IT people. Then number 6 is whereby we're going to look at how you build a predictive model. Number 7 is the developing of an end user interface so that the staff or the employees or the people can have a good experience as they interact with the system. And the last step is the user training. Yeah, so you can see these are the 8 steps. So I thought it's good for me to just highlight them, so at least it gives you an indication of where we are headed in terms of this training. So we start with the first step, which is selecting metrics and KPIs. And this is whereby, to kickstart the process in any organization, you're supposed to formulate questions about the workforce that correlate to the business outcomes company must achieve. There must be the need, because I believe it just didn't come up that one day you decided we want to have a people analytics. There is a need that put you to that level whereby we told ourselves, but as an organization, I as HR, as the head of the HR, I feel for us to be able to support the business in the right way, we need to have people analytics. So the kind of questions that we're going to ask ourselves is like, what do we need to measure? And like I said previously, is that at times we get a lot of phone calls in the HR, especially coming from the executive offices, and they need data real time. They'll be asking the ratio between this and this, things that you may not automatically be able to respond. And at times, if you're not, or maybe you don't have somebody who's very good in terms of generating data, you may be accused of delaying. You may be accused of you don't give feedback promptly, you may be accused of it's like you don't know the people you're managing, you may be accused of you're the HR, but you don't even understand the dynamics of. So this is going to help you as you're asking yourself, as you're choosing, you're asking yourself, what are the KPIs that I want to achieve? What do I really want to measure? Yeah. And like I said, all of us to have a pen and a paper is that when you go to step number 2, you can tell us what KPIs, in case today you're to implement a people analytics in your organization, what KPI would you want to measure? Okay. So kindly just note that is the first question. What do we want? What do we need to measure? So highlight a KPI on what you're going to measure. Okay. We are clear on that? So I believe you have a pen and paper. So we're going to write the first question is what do I want to measure? Because it is you, after this is you is going to now go and sell the concept to the organization. Okay. Then the next question, how are given metrics interconnected with each other? Yeah. Whatever you want to measure, how is it interconnected with each other? A good example, I think it's Leah or Jonathan who said, I think Leah said that we've seen people are leaving. And we've realized most people who are leaving, maybe we got them through advertisements. But we've realized from our metrics, people who come through referrals are not existing. They tend to be, they tend to stay more in an organization. We've realized these millennials, based on the diversity of your population, the millennials tend to leave after 1 or 2 years. The baby boomers, then they'll be there until retirement. Even you have to give them retirement notices. Yes, but it's because that is what defines that generation. So how do you connect that with your staff benefits? If majority of your population is on the baby boomers who believe in job security, then you're going to ensure that whatever benefits you have are benefits that will make them stay. Because one, they have a lot of institutional knowledge, institutional background, so you don't want to lose them. So and that can only come when you realize, you get to know how the exits, because you see, when you realize you're losing many of those people who have been there forever, or those people who are like, I'm okay, I'm just looking for job security, and you're losing them, you're also losing a lot to the organization, because one, you don't have people who understand where you've come from, especially if it's a growing institution, you've been there for some time. It also depends at the level at which your organization is at. So based on that, you're able to put mechanisms in place that will ensure that you're able to cater for every population, every generation in your workplace. And I think that has been the biggest challenge for us as HR, whereby you have to come up with retention strategies that are going to get a buy-in of all staff. Because you agree with me that all generations, their needs are different. Yeah, they're very different. And we as HR have to come up with a solution. So with a good metric, you're able to see how they interconnect with each other. So that is a question that we need to ask ourselves. How are these metrics interconnected? And how can we use them to ensure that we come out with a strategy that is going to help us to ensure that we support the business accordingly? What events or values are necessary to forecast? Yeah. What events or values are necessary to forecast? On this, as you're writing, and because all of us are talking about our organization, I know each organization has its own values. We even have the national values as a government, as a country. And how many of us live those values? And you realize that most organizations have actually borrowed from the national values. But are we able to use them as we are formulating our HR strategies? We say that I think one of the values that is almost everywhere is integrity. It's everywhere, but are we able to really show that integrity is working? If you're told today as a HR person, want to measure the level of integrity of how staff are living this value of integrity, what are you going to do? How are you going to measure it? Yeah. So those are the kind of analytics we're talking about. Those are the kind of KPIs we're asking about. We just talk about values. Yes, we are good. We are customer oriented. That is very easy because maybe you can be able to measure your customer satisfaction. But there is a satisfaction and there is a value itself. Are you able to measure that value? And also, is there any value addition to the business? Whatever metrics that you're putting in place, whatever metrics that you believe that are going to move this organization from point A to B, are they of value to that organization? So that is the first step. That is choosing the metrics and KPIs to monitor and predict. We continue. So when you're documenting a custom KPI or metric, what you need to do is that you need to describe in details what measure it expresses. What measure is this KPI going to express? What do I want to achieve? Yeah. How is it calculated or generated? If I want to get the staff turnover, how am I going to calculate it? And you find that different people have different ways of calculating some of these ratios. If it's a staff turnover, I can decide I want to take the whole population. There are people who want to just see if maybe you're having affirmative, you want to have an affirmative recruitment, you want to look at the level of male to female who have left, you know? So in that case, your staff ratio, your staff turnover will be based on gender. Okay, so how have you calculated it? In what form is it represented? How are you going to be presenting it? Is it numeric, 10%, 0.5? Is it a ratio 1 to 3? 1 supervisor to 5? How? So those are things that you need to define. And those are our roles. With what frequency? What frequency will you use? Or with what frequency the measure must be taken? Jonathan told us the period. Is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be bi-weekly, bi-monthly, monthly, quarterly, annually? And you agree with me, there are those metrics that even will be like long-term. Because if it's aligned to your strategic plan, and you do your strategic evaluation after maybe 5 years, then there's that metric that will be done at the end of 5 years. So you have to define the period. But you agree with me that if you get it right on day one, the same one is there that is going to feed the long-term one. So you have to ensure that you get it right. From what data source an indicator will be retrieved for the processing and analysis? Where are you getting that data from? That is the data source. And you all agree with me, they say, garbage in, garbage out. You put garbage data, then you report the output is going to be a reflection of the data that you have. So you have to ensure that your data source is clear, your data source has been tested on integrity, and you agree that in terms of data source, a simple mistake can be very expensive to an organization. Because imagine if you're inputting people's ages, the date of birth, you want to develop a report on the age because you want to plan for maybe some training, you want to succession planning, and the ages are wrong. And maybe from your age, whoever was inputting, maybe they were saying 20. Nowadays we're having young people in our organizations working with us. Maybe this person was born in 1997. But as you're inputting that data, you show that this person was born in 1979 because we still have the same people who are working. So you can imagine when you're generating data on age, You'll be thinking you have people born in 1997, but the ages will be reflecting people for 1979. So you can imagine the impact it can have in terms of your population. I assume you're generating data on age. Assume you're generating data on the generations, because you want to put, like we said, we're having diversity in terms of the generations that we are working with. You want to generate data so at least you can be able to implement strategies. So you can imagine you'll be having the wrong people in the wrong groups. So it is very, very important to ensure that we have integrity of our data sources. So just for an example, so at least we are able to be on the same line, how we are able to consider and use features to measure or predict employee engagement may include, and it's interesting, but we have to move with time. Social media posts can tell you or predict your employee engagement. And especially for the young people, for people, maybe let's say based on the generation, the people are very shy in terms of presenting themselves or even trying to say what they're going through. But for these young people, they're able to express themselves. They'll even tell you as it is, even if you're the supervisor, you know. For them, you know, like you'll find something that someone may never have told a supervisor in the past, they'll say it. And they'll even post on the social media group, you know, they say today, my boss came up with, you know, came and they were very, you know, so it really helps you. And I always encourage people, especially if you have these young people, millennials, and, you know, this new generation that is coming up, if you can, be checking on their status. You can be able to tell how you can even be able to predict how their day was in the office. You know, they just post something, you know, and you're like, okay, they'll even maybe post something that because they want to target you. So it's very important to look at the social media posts. Also, we have the professional ones that will maybe post something, and maybe they'll be asking a question. And in most cases, that question is in reference to their organization. Messages and comments in the work chats, as you're communicating, you can always be able to tell. And that's when you're able to tell, oh, maybe if we don't take care of this, then this, we are sitting on a time bomb. The period of how long has this person been in this organization can also tell you. It will help you because when they have the institutional background, they have knowledge, and they also understand maybe the dynamics, and they've seen the organization grow. So all this can help you. Yeah. And this can only be achieved if you have a nice people analytics that is able to capture all these details. So before now we go to the stage number 2, step number 2. I know I requested that we write down. And I just want to challenge us, because now this is our role, because like you can see up there, it's the role of the HR specialist. And we're supposed to define the KPIs, like I said earlier, select the features and formulate requirements. So who do want to share with us the KPIs that they want to define for their people analytics? Anyone who would want to share with us? The KPI stands for key performance indicator. Anybody would want to share? And remember, we said there's no wrong answer in people in adult learning. All answers are right. And like we said, is that when you're doing a KPI, we have to know what measure it is expressing, how it's going to be calculated or generated, how you're going to present it, the frequency, and the data source. Anyone who'd want to share with us the defined KPI? Anyone? Please feel free. We are learning. In adult learning, we learn from each other. because that is the only way we are going to know that tomorrow, if we are to go and sell people analytics to the executive, then they're going to get a buy-in. KPI? Anyone would want to try? Jonathan?
Okay. From my side, when coming with the KPIs for step one, that is selecting metrics, I would look into as a HR, how will the people analytics help me to make my reports and my collecting of data much more easier, the time limit and the cost as well. So I look into time and cost.
Time and cost, right? So the KPIs that you're going to have, you're going to look at the time. So because here what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to define one KPI. So maybe we can look at one KPI that is going to look at the time. So maybe we can say the implementation period. And one, do you have the budget? You know, those are the things that you're going to look at. Because for you to be able to put, when you put the cost comes with a budget. Okay. So now the KPI that you're going to be defining here, we have to ensure that first we had budgeted for it. Or in case we've not budgeted it for it, and the need has come and you feel that we need to have people analytics in place, then we have to know how you're going to get the budget. Okay. Then to add on that in terms of time, one of the KPIs that I would, for me, if I was to put in place at people analytics, is that I would want to know the annual staff turnover, the percentage of the annual staff turnover. You know, that defines. And how I'm going to be evaluated is how many people have left. I'm able to give a report that our turnover, the acceptable turnover, maybe based with the organization, assume is 0.2. And at the end of the year, I have like maybe 0.5 or 0.4, the staff turnover. So those are the KPI, because it has to be something that is measurable. So we're looking at the time. How much time is it going to take to implement this system? Yeah. Within 6 months, within 1 year. And you agree with me, to implement the people analytics, you may not implement everything at a go. Because like you're saying, as you continue the roles, you realize everything has to be done at any point. So now with these 8 steps that we have, the first KPI will be to define. So when the time frames that you require, you give yourself like a month or so to define your KPIs and the metrics that you want to start with. Like I've given an example of the staff turnover. We can talk about the staff engagement activities. We can talk about the utilization of your staff benefits, maybe the medical. We also have the welfare, the staff welfare. We're not talking about work-life balance. Maybe you can look at the leave, how the leave utilization percentage or the rate of people who are going for leave. And it has been proven that most senior people don't go for leave. So maybe you can even have an extra matrix where you're saying the making a comparison. You know, we said that you can interconnect metrics. So you can say the level of senior management and maybe this other mid-level, how they are consulting their leaves. Because you all agree with me that leave not taken becomes a liability to the organization. So those are the kind of KPIs that you can define. Because you see now, this is going to help you. It is helping you to sell. You know, this is the first. And like you said, when you go to the market with your fruits, I've not eaten that apple, but you have to sell to me that and tell me that it is sweet. Or the watermelons. I think for us ladies, I think that is one of the things that we struggle with. You go to buy a watermelon, you don't know whether it's sweet or not sweet. So the person who is selling to you has to convince you that it is a sweet watermelon. So for us in this first step whereby we're selecting our metrics and KPIs, this is our selling point. So we have to ensure whatever we pick is something that when you sit in that boardroom and you're trying to sell it, it's going to sell. Okay. And of course, in this is going to help you selecting your features. Because if you want to measure turnover, of course, we measure turnover by when the person came and the person left. So those are the features that you're going. So you have to ensure that everything that enables you, because maybe this turnover left, maybe the other thing you want to ask yourself, if this employee A left, what was their salary? They were at 100,000. What is the market rate? So you see all those features that will help you in decision making. Because like we said, one of the benefits is because we want to ensure that we help management in making decisions. Okay, so that is the first step whereby we've selected our metrics and the KPI. So I believe all of us have noted that. And I would suggest, if it's possible, if you can have at least one KPI, I think I've given examples, you can just pick one KPI that you can ride with, so that in case tomorrow you want to think about people analytics, at least it's something that you can work from, okay? So pick one KPI that you can drive with within this session, and I would be asking about it. So for Jonathan, he's talked about time and cost. So the next person, whatever KPI you have, then we can be able to drive from it. So at least we learn from each other. Then the next step is we're defining the data sources. For me, for purposes of this training, allow me to go with the KPI of the annual staff turnover, okay? So that is what I'll be running with, and I will try as much as possible to use most of the examples on the employee staff turnover percentage. That is, it's a percentage, and it's overall, so I can break it. And why I want to pick it is because I can break it into so many. From this one KPI, I can be able to develop so many other reports from that. So now we go to the second step, which is defining the data sources, and the roles is executive person. You can see from this, the first role, it was our role as HR. Now we go to the second role, the second step. This is whereby now you've sold the idea to the executive. And now it is them who is going to make a decision based on your input. And remember, garbage in, garbage out. So if your input was strong, then you can be assured the executive is going to have a buy-in. So let's discuss it. Then now we go practically to what we can do. So the second step is where you define your data sources. And this is whereby once you've defined the indicators to track or forecast, documenting sources from which to pull this data won't be difficult. I agree, absolutely. Since you already know what you want to track, Jonathan wants to track time and cost. For me, I want to track my staff turnover. And the moment I know that, then tracking that becomes very, very easy. Yeah? Because I already know what I'm looking for. I already know the end. So what I'm looking for now is how I'm going to the meat. I already have the spread, so I'm looking for the meat to fill in to ensure that I get the right output of the KPI that I want to achieve. And there are various data sources that can help us in achieving our KPI. And they include, if you have an ERP HR module, and you'll agree with me that most of them come with several features. Therefore, data related to time tracking, employee scheduling, payroll management, and absent management. These are the basic things that we want to look for as HR. These are the basic. But no, with people analytics, you're going deeper because you want to make decisions based on the different data that you have. The other thing that you're looking at that can help you get data is recruiting tools, applicant tracking system, Do you have a tracking system? Because you go to organization and tell you, well, we have a recruitment system, an online recruitment panel platform. And you're like, wow. The moment you start interacting with it, the most you can do is just upload. You cannot, they don't even have like a form. You can only upload your CV. It cannot track. It does not have communication, real-time communication with staff or with the applicants. So these are the things that you want to improve on. Employee scheduling software. Are you able to schedule your employees? And especially right now, in HR, we have to move the times. And with these new generations that are coming in, there's one thing that we cannot ignore: flexibility at workplace. Because most of them, they're like, I mean, why can't I work from the house? I just come and sit on this seat. Why can't I do the same? So if you're going to embrace a work from home policy, how are you going to ensure that your employees are well scheduled, that they're doing whatever they're supposed to be doing? Yeah. So you require a software. Talent management software. We now have very good talent management software. In the past, but you have a spreadsheet, so you map your people and that's what you have. But now you're talking about maybe you have like 1,000 staff. An Excel spreadsheet may not help you achieve that. So you may embrace a talent management software. The training systems. Right now we have training systems and you're able to interact with the participants. You're able to pick anything that you want from that training. Google Sheets and Excel files, if you use those, yeah, Google Sheets has become the end thing. You want to have maybe a very quick survey. You guys want to have a meeting, nobody, you're not sure what time. You just pull a Google Sheet and you're able to tell very easily, able to make a decision. The skill testing solutions, competency testing. Most people are now really embracing this. So these are part of the data sources. And like you can see, my dear colleagues, is that some of these data sources have a cost in it. Because if you're talking about a talent management software, that's a software that has to be bought. So maybe you have a good ERP module that can be developed, but do you have developers in your organization? And the developers you have, you realize some are very good at these systems, some are very good at these systems. Yeah. So that's I'm saying this, as you talk about the people analytics, it is wider than just what meets the eye. And for it to effectively, someone is saying something? Yes, please be allowed. Can't hear you. Yeah. Sorry, I think someone is talking behind. Kindly let's mute ourselves. It happens once in a while. Sorry for that. We unmute without knowing. So let's ensure that we mute ourselves. Thank you for that. So like I was saying is that you find some of these things have extra costs. Yeah, if it's a training system, to have an effective training system working, there is some investment that has to be done. Okay. So as you're talking about the data sources, that is why it's very important as a HR person. Ensure you're very clear about your data process, your data sources. Because if you're not, you'll be assuming you'll have the data, then when you come to generate the report, you don't have it. And all of us agree with me that most of the ERP HR modules, they come very basic, very general. So if you don't have a developer in place, and I always encourage people, if you can have a developer, a good developer, especially, of course, depending on the magnitude of your organization, they'll help you because you see, they're able to customize reports as per your needs. So that every time you want a report, you don't have to go to the drawing board. Okay? So these are the part of the sources that you can have. And the sources can either be internal or external. Sorry for that. And we're saying that internal data specifically refers to data obtained from the HR department in an organization. And the core HR system contains several data points that can be used for a HR analytics tool. Some of the metrics that an HR information system contains includes Yeah, these are very basic. You can say the tenure, you can always be able to tell, I've been there for how long? But now the question comes in case I want to know the ladies, can your system, are you able to generate that report? Because the challenge we experience, we as HR people, we have the general reports. Those ones we able to produce very well. But the moment somebody goes and asks for an extra report that requires a lot of interaction, a lot of breaking it into pieces, allow me to say, like, you see, like you give a glass and it breaks into pieces. As we always give a very good report, but the moment we are requested to break into pieces, we don't have answers. We don't have answers, and like, okay, can you give me some times? And I go and bring that report. But if you've well thought about your people analytics, you'll ensure that if it is a fast like the people tenor, you've tried to imagine or project any question that the executive can come around the people tenor. Is it about the salary? Is it about anything? They ask anything and nothing. Have you been able to preempt it? And that's why the original KPIs are very, very important, because it will help you that you've tried to capture anything that you can imagine. So that the moment you're having this people analytics system, it is very easy for you. Employee compensation. We know this is what they're giving from this grade to this grade, this grade to this grade. And you present a very good report, but you've not thought about or breaking it. And somebody will just ask a question, like, have you compared it with other organizations at the same level? You've never undertaken a salary survey. But if you have people analytics and you've connected, it will see when you go to the external, it will be very easy. You're like, but they, based on the market, this is what is happening. So I think for me, the challenge, we as HR people, we are challenged. And I think I like it. We've taken it very positively. And that's why we're having these kind of trainings, is whereby we also want to be part of this decision making. And we're able to show that we're adding value to the organization. Because at times you've gone to those meetings and they say, okay, maybe finance can help HR work on that data. I don't know whether you've had that. And at times it can be very humiliating, And the other issues of the performance appraisal data. We're very good at presenting the performance appraisal. This is our medium. This is our, this is how we perform. And somebody just ask you a very, a question from nowhere. And you're like, you start asking yourself, what can I do next now? And of course, as usual, you're like, okay, just give me, I can give that report. Just give me like 1 or 2 days. I can share it with you people after this meeting. People analytics, what you want to achieve as HR people is that when you ask a question, there's nothing you're going to share after the meeting because you have everything. They look at it, they're like, wow. They try to poke holes, you have everything at a glance. The reporting structure, details on high level, high potential employees, the HIPPOs, details on disciplinary action against an employee. So this is the internal data sources that we have. Then and what we are told is that at times, the challenge that we can get at times is that the data is disconnected and so may not serve as a reliable measure. Like I said earlier, garbage in, garbage out. Garbage in, garbage out. And I always tell people, every time you're preparing any report, just have that at the back of your mind. Garbage in, garbage out. If your data source is not well managed, is not well maintained, my dear colleagues, you can be assured you're going to be presenting data and to you. I have been in a meeting, somebody presented data and they even presented data of somebody who was deceased. So you can imagine how embarrassing it can be. So meaning that data source is not being maintained. So let's ensure that we maintain the data so that we can be sure that whatever data we are giving is reliable. Okay. External data. This is whereby we get external data by working relationships with other departments of the organization. Data from outside the organization is also essential as it offers a global perspective that working with data from within organization cannot. Assume like now in case about the salaries. If you ask people of the same level, how much are they earning? Unless you have been engaged in a salary survey, you may not get to know. And that's why at times, and this helps us when we're trying to sell ourselves to the management that we need to be part of some certain networks. You need to be a member of this, you need to be a member of this, because that is where you're able to get this information. You know, there's some organizations that are very, maybe it's a cost control measure, but they will never allow HR people to be members of maybe like a certain organization that may help you get this global perspective on HR related data. Financial data, this is where looking at the organization-wide financial data is key because it helps you to calculate, for instance, revenue per employee or cost of hire. You see what I was talking about? Whereby whatever it is, the system is able to give you. Because you just go to a meeting and somebody just asks you, so when you recruited employee number one, what was the cost of hire? You start asking yourself, by the way, what was that cost of hire? Then they go to another employee that you even didn't think. And you start asking yourself, then you're like, okay, fine. We have normally the question will say, we always say, we have the same, we have the information, maybe just give us one or two, just within an hour, I should be able to share that. But if you're very keen with your KPIs of your HR metrics or people analytics, it's going to be very easy because it's just a formula. So you just pick, and as they're talking, you've already given them the figure because it's automatic, okay? But that cannot be available if you have connected. We're talking about the KPIs connection, finance and HR. In terms of money, it is finance. You may have some organizations, how they do it is that they will ensure that they have even like somebody who does payroll, who sits in HR. Some organization, the payroll sits in finance. So it depends. So you have to know how you're going to interconnect both of them so that when you develop your metrics, then you're able to deliver as may be expected. Okay? Organization-specific data. This is depending on the time of the organization and its core offering. The products, do you understand all the products in your organization? You feel like some of us are very good. We are working in an organization, but in case you're asked, what products are there, especially in manufacturing, you don't know anything. How do you interrelate? Maybe somebody will ask you, product X, the staff that is supporting product X, what is their monthly something, and they don't even say the salary that They'll even say like in the terms of medical, what do you pay for their medical, So something that you really don't, is not that obvious question, okay? So get to understand your services. Passive data from employees. We agree that employees give us information. Additionally, like I said earlier, data from their social media posts and shares from feedback surveys can be used to guide HR data analysis. We're at a point where by technology, we have to embrace technology. Therefore, as HR, we have to embrace technology and especially the social media. Any organization, any growing organization cannot shy away from social media. Like in the past, you'd find if you find an employee on social media, on Facebook or on Twitter, it was a big deal, I remember even there are times an employee could even be given some disciplinary because they're very active on some social media platforms. But now the active they are, the better, because you want yourself to trend. And it's very evident when you go to most of these conferences, it does not matter whether it's a private, public, whatever it is, they'll always be giving you the Twitter handle because they want to trend, It's a marketing. So you cannot shy away from it. So we have to ensure that we take advantage of that passive data of our staff because it also helps us understand them. It also helps us know what makes them happy. I give an example of someone who went for an interview in an international organization. And when they went for this interview, very interesting, like you'll go for an interview and you're told to dress. All of us are told when you go for an interview, you should be smart. And they're told to go in, they assume they're going for a social gathering. They go dressed like they're going for a social gathering. So you can imagine if you're dressed, you're going for a social gathering, go there with a suit. What do those people think about you? So you can imagine the dynamics. And for them, they just want to see. And apart from that, they're telling you also come with like 3-4 photos of yourself in different social gatherings. So how you dress, you know? So you cannot ignore some of these things. And they'll even go to your Facebook page and they're looking, wow, when's the last time you updated it? So it's an evolving practice in HR, something that maybe the HR may have perceived as employees wasting time on the social media platforms, but now we have to embrace it. Historical data. Several global economic, political, environmental events determine patterns in employee behavior. Such data can offer insights that limited internal data cannot. We cannot ignore the external historical data on what happens, what has been happening in the past, what has happened in terms of the employee behavior. We all know, and that's why we have learning is continuous. When we talked about motivation of staff, maybe we knew 1 or 2 models. Most of us embraced, or most of the old school would have embraced the Maslow hierarchy of needs, you know, but now things have changed. When we talk about behavior, it's different. Maybe things that we thought are basic, no, they're not basic. It is, or whatever we thought is luxury, is no longer luxury, it is basic now. So how do you put strategies in place to ensure that your metrics are able to capture that? So that's why you cannot ignore the historical and what is happening and keeping with the trends. I liked what Leah said when we started, that she wants to understand they have the metrics currently, but she wants to know what are these new trends that are coming up. Because you're told, if you want to expect different results, you cannot keep doing the things the old way and expect to get new results. What are these trends? And I'm here to tell you, my HR colleagues, that the trends are fast moving. They're moving so fast, you know, and you find a trend within a month, 2 months, things are moving. So you really have to be on toes. You have to move with the times. But you can only be able to do that if you ensure that your data sources, your external data sources, are effective and they are reliable and they are in touch. And that's why we encourage to continue going for continuous training. You know, continuous training, I tell people nowadays, it's no longer that thing that you'd say, let's do it like annually after 2 months. No, it is an everyday thing because things are changing very, very fast. Okay, so now based on that, now on our step number 2, before we go to our step number 3, we said we are going to be looking at the requirements that we need so that we learn together. And for me, I said I'm moving with the staff annual turnover. And for purposes of this training, so that we can have prompt participation, let's move with the annual staff turnover and the costs and time. So for us to have a data source that is going to ensure us achieve this KPI, which requirements do we require? That's a question. Which requirements do we require? We're looking for the staff turnover. I have been saying some of them, so this is just more of a recap. Since we may not have a recap, so my approach is that we have recap after every step. So who do you want to try? Staff turnover, time and cost in the implementation of a HR analytics. So those are the 2 that we are driving with. So which are these requirements that we need? Lillian? Someone can help Lillian? So which are these requirements that we're looking at defining our data sources? So what is this data source that you're going to require?
As you said, you have 2 types, that's the internal data and the external data.
So we have the internal data and the external data. So maybe you can tell us something from the internal, then someone else can tell us something from the external data. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. So data, what internal data? What are we going to look for? Just one
now,
requirement.
I think I can try.
Yes, please. Thank you.
For the internal, I'd say maybe how many staff have left the organization.
How many staff have left the organization? Yes. So the number of staff who have left. What else?
And also for the internal data, I will add how long did the staff stay before they left the organization?
The tenure of the employee, right? So we have the number of employees who have left and the tenure of the number of years of the period they've worked with us. Thank you. Thank you for. So I believe we are picking something. That's why we're doing this recap. So please ensure we get it right. So number of employees who have left and the tenure. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And for driving. And kindly say your name.
My name is Leah.
Yes, Leah.
So maybe in terms of exits, the most important also is to check the quality of this person in terms of performance contribution or the skill you are losing, for example.
Awesome. The quality of the staff. Because when you look at the number of people who have left, maybe the number of people who have left are 10 and all of them were dismissed. So really, you'll be like, there are those we say good exits. So I agree with what Leah is saying. To add on what the other colleagues have said, as you're looking at the number of people who have left, the number of years that they've worked with the organization, then we need to look at their quality and their performance. Thank you. So you can see how it's building.
I think
so
we
one
also,
metric. Yes, please go ahead, Jen.
I think also what is important is to also look at the functions in which these people are. Are we having exits in a particular department where you find that maybe we've had, yes, as you say, 10 exits, and out of those, 6 of them have been in finance. So to say, why are we losing people in this department so that you can dig deeper? And of course, without a doubt, we need to also have the demographics, the age. Are we having more people who are young leaving very quickly soon after they join? Or do we have the older ones staying longer? I think those are important metrics to look at as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yes, thank you. So anybody would want to add? So we're looking at the demographics, the age, the functions. Are people just in finance living? And people in finance who are living, most of them, it's through the disciplinary process. So most of them may be in a specific department, they're all moving because of growth. They're going to other organizations. So we look at those functions. I agree. Thank you. And the demographics, the age. Yes, somebody else would want to add? Okay, thanks, Lillian. Appreciated. Your comment is appreciated.
I can also add maybe the reasons for turnover, for example, resignation, dismissal.
Reasons for turnover. So it can be dismissal, can be resignation, can be retirement, can be, God forbid, death, can be on medical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Yes. So now those are the external. So now we go to, that's internal. So we go to external. External. What are the requirements and what will we be looking for? I love that interaction. Let's continue that spirit, please. Just unmute and go ahead and say something.
So maybe competition.
Thank you. Competition.
Yeah.
Competition from organizations, right?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. What else can we get from the
I don't know if this qualifies, but sometimes actually some attrition is planned. It's a planned exit. A good example is when there's a project and it has ended there, or if it was outsourced, the other company has ended it, the person has to leave. So I think we should also be looking at planned exits.
Planned exits that are externally attributed to external interactions or external partnerships, right? Thank you. Any other external requirement? There's competition, then there's a planned exit that has been attributed to a project, end of a project. How about the labor market? What is your thinking on that? Anyone would have a view on that? Go ahead. Just unmute yourself. Anyone can say something. Okay, allow me to talk about that. So the labor market is whereby maybe we can say that we know some positions are easy to hire, some are difficult to hire or challenging to hire. So we also need to know, we agree with me, like now with the new dynamics in terms of the technology, everyone is talking about AI. So you can imagine if today you're hiring an AI specialist in the market, even you yourself who is hiring, not even sure what you're looking for, because it's a new dynamic. So you find, even like for organization, maybe you have a new product. So at times when the market, also the labor market is also an attribute. So why I wanted us to do that one, you can see from that one metric, turnover, all these are data sources. So when you're structuring or when you go to the infrastructure of your system, you have to ensure that all these have been captured. You have to ensure that today, in case you want to know, this person left because was it how between the age of 20 to 25, how many staff have we lost? You have to ensure that you're able to get that data. So those are the data sources. So you have to ensure behind the system that data is available. And that's why you find that for organizations that have very, very effective HR systems, they'll have a HR developer who is specifically for HR, and they'll have a HR metrics specialist. I'm sure nowadays you've seen most organizations are now hiring HR analytics specialists, because you can see from one, and I'm sure we've not exhausted everything, because it grows, like one, we say number of the ones who have left, it's a snowball. So it grows, and there's so much that can come out of that one metric. So thank you so much for that exercise. And we're now at number 2. So now we're going to the third step, which is it's not very complicated, because it's whereby we're talking about an off the shelf or a customized tool. And why I'm taking so much time on these 4 roles is because you realize this is where we fall, the HR specialist, that's where we are. And so we really need to get it right. Because you see, when you don't get it right, then you go and sit with the HT people. They tell you, but this is what HR said, So if you really don't understand what you're looking for, then you're going to get a system that is going to frustrate you, because you're not able to get the results that you did anticipate. So the step number 3 is an off-the-shelf or a custom tool. And the roles of the people who are responsible is the executive person and the HR specialist. And you can see you're there as a HR to give your professional opinion. And how you give it is what is going to help you in terms of getting the buy-in. So your key responsibilities will be to evaluate the commercial tools and to decide in the need to build the tool that you're looking for. So in details, so this is where we're deciding the tool. So you define from which system to source information as well as metrics and KPIs to measure an event or forecast. The next consideration, now that we've done all that we needed to do. So our next consideration is whether you want to get it off the shelf tool or build your own system. And I want us to discuss on this. Which is a better option, off the shelf tool or building your own system? Off the shelf tool is whereby you go, it's like you go to a shop. Allow me to give this example. Nowadays, most of the supermarkets are selling food. So if today I want to enjoy a meal of pilau and chicken, I can decide to go to Naivas and I'll buy pilau and chicken and I'll come and eat. Alternatively, I can decide to cook the same pilau and chicken in my house. So using the 2 illustrations, off the shelf is whereby I walk into Naivas, buy my pilau and chicken and eat. Building my own system or building our own system is whereby in my house, I will cook the pilau, so I'll ensure that I have all the ingredients. I'll ensure that I know the recipe. I know what I need to cook. I have, and I cook it myself. So that is a difference. So with those 2 illustrations, which is better? These are debate. Which is better? Off the shelf or building your own system?
Building my own system.
Sorry?
I will take the build my own system.
Reasons?
So this helps me to make the placements the way I want it to be and how I feel like it will be beneficiary to the people that I want to give this information to, as well as to analyze and evaluate the information, the data.
So it helps you because you decide. If it's like the
Yes.
pillar that I can decide I want to make a lot of, I will decide what you want. You
Yeah, my
customize it
preferences.
exactly to your preferences. Okay. Anyone else who thinks about the off the shelf?
Okay, for me, I think it would depend on various factors. One, what am I trying to achieve? Of course, I'm trying to achieve effectivity, workflow processes. However, do I have what's my budget? What money do I have within the HR department? Number 2, time. Do I have enough time to start customizing a whole system again? Or do I just want to go pick something off the shelf and then also improve on what is there? Because sometimes there's no need to reinvent the wheel. The third would be probably the training, the time it would take for people to get accustomed to this new system. Whatever the case, whether it's a new system off the shelf or one that I'm making, there still will be a training need and change management to be done. So for me, it would be, I would look at certain factors before I decide on what to go for. However, because maybe I've worked on a system before, I would not want to reinvent the wheel because the system has to be able to give me an end-to-end user from the employee life cycle. It needs to at least accommodate the employee life cycle processes and 1 or 2, 3 other things that I am facing, or me and my team are having difficulty with in the HR department, and also interfacing with staff. Because other than the analytics to give us as HR profession insights, we also need to have a system that interfaces and helps employees to communicate with us. So I think that's my.
Okay, thank you so much, Kemunto. I love that. Whereby one, there's some factors that you need to look at, what you want to achieve, budget and time. We go back to the time and cost that we had. Then you don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's time in training. And I agree that the factors are what are going to determine. Because one, if you want to build your own system, there are things that you require. One, you require a developer. Because as a HR expert, you're not an IT expert. Therefore, you'll be requiring a developer. So do you have that developer in place? That's an extra, is a resource that you require. Secondly, is that the developer will come with a cost. The skills that are required to develop a system, will you need 1 or 2 developers? Okay. So like Kemunto has rightly said, I think there are various factors that will come in place. Secondly, I think also the number of employees that you're talking about, because I'm trying to imagine if I have like 10 employees, a building own system is so easy because, it's very easy to manipulate within 10 people. But if you're talking about 1,000 employees and maybe you don't have developers, so you can imagine how complicated it can be. So I think what I'm trying to say is that both of them are okay, depending on the factors that you put in place. Key is budget. Off the shelf, most of them will be very expensive. So do you have that budget? You get off the shelf. At times it comes, I have been engaged in implementation of systems, HR systems. And at times they're off the shelf, they'll come and when they're marketing it, it is awesome. Wait until they come on the ground. You can't even produce a single report, And at times they'll tell you that you have some references that you have to make and you go to those organizations. But because those organizations, the system has grown over time, it is working perfectly. So there's so many factors that you need to look at. You also give yourself that time. Do you have time for all those disappointments, all those the learning? Because if you go and tell the executive that I'm sure when we get this system off the shelf, within a month, we'll be able to start presenting reports, doing this and this, where ideally it may not be practical. So there's so many factors that you have to look into. However, it is always encouraged, if you can, don't reinvent the wheel. You can get a simple off the shelf, then you build it with time. But also, be careful with the off the shelf, because some of them will tell you, it's okay, just click it with this interface. But as you're increasing, they start saying, no, our agreement was up to this. So any extra thing that you require, they charge an arm for it. So you have to be very, very, very careful and picking all the factors and analyzing it. So at least whatever you will get will work for you. But all I know is that this is a decision that you cannot make as a person. It's a decision that you have to collectively make. And you have to make the decision when you're well informed. And this will be guided by what you want to achieve, the budget and the time, and also the capacity of the people that you have on board. Because if you say you want to build a system, and in HR, maybe you have 2 or 3 people, and all of them are fully engaged, and you build a system, because even the developer, when they come, they need a HR person who may not understand what HR is. So you just be telling them, I want a leave management system. Then they don't know what leave management is. You know, for them, the no leave is I have 30 days, I want to go on leave. Kindly, somebody has unmuted by mistake.
Yesterday, I was hoping that even in my
Jane
culture,
Jane Wanjohi,
she can mention something,
kindly unmute yourself.
mention anything. I let it be, but I mean,
Thank you. Thank you for that, Jane. Sorry, I know at times we touch these car keys by mistake. Sorry for that.
Sorry about
Us-
that. I'm also in the office.
No worries, no worries. It's understandable. We appreciate. Thank you. So we're talking about building. When you want to build it. So this person comes in from IT and you're telling them we want a leave management system. For them, the no leave is, if I have 30 days, I want to go for 10 days, then I'm left with 20 days, I want to go for another, but there's so much about leave management. There's sick leave, there's maternity leave, there's paternity leave, we have these public holidays, we have public holidays that we did not foresee and they've been declared, So how do you manage it? Maybe somebody has applied for leave and their leave falls, like now assume like when we have ungazetted or, we have the basic or the calendar holidays. But at times, the government comes up and says, but they will have like, let's say like the tree planting holiday, and Irene is on leave around that time. Will the system be able to pick that on this day that Irene was on leave, this is a public holiday? So if I've taken 10 days, will it automatically, does it have the intelligence of automatically deleting that one day that was a public holiday that had not been? So all these things, dynamics that come in place. So we have to look at all those factors. But once we've looked at those whole factors and we ensure we get it right, we've done our gap analysis, we know what we want to achieve, we've done the first step well, we've defined the KPIs, because the KPIs will ensure will enable you to come up with the requirements. And like we've seen from the exercise that we've done, when we started the first one, we picked on the annual staff turnover, because looking at the time and cost. And when we come to step number 2, with only that one on staff turnover, we've been able to come up with so many things that we can be able to measure. We want to know the number of people who have left. We want to know the period they've been there. We want to know the function. We want to know the demographics, their ages. We want to know the reasons they have lived. Have they been dismissed? Have they resigned? Have they retired? Have they, God forbid, it is through the act of God. Is it a medical exit? And that is just from one KPI, The same KPI on external, the competition. Wow, people, how are we able to tap? Can we have something that is able to give us, that we're able to input the salary of, let's say, if it's an operations manager, we know the entry point in the market of an international operations manager is this amount, is salary A. The maximum is this, and that is just on one KPI. So you can see how, if you get your KPIs right, how it's going to be easy to come up with a system. So if you're building your system, then that works very well. And also, if it's external, you're off the system, you want to go buy it off the shelf, then you also know what you want to achieve. So even as you're buying, even as these consultants are making that presentation on the system they have, you already have questions that you can ask. Am I going to be able to capture the age? Right now, you find most systems in the past, the HR system would always be male and female. But now we are diverse. We have to embrace diversity. The people don't want to be asked whether I'm male or female. And you cannot be employing them because, again, you don't want to be accused of discrimination. So if you go to that gender, how is it? The people don't want to be asked whether I'm my age. So it's up to you to know. As a HR, I also know how I'm going to capture my age in a way that I do not feel like I'm discriminating. So all these attributes come into play. So once you've decided on what you want, and you have decided that this is the way you want to go, then you go to the next level of, you start the implementation. But before we go to that. I just want to take us through one or two tools of systems that are in the market that should you feel you don't want to get an off the shelf, you may be able to pick them. Yeah. And these tools are tools that will enable you to track, manage, and analyze various people data. So you're able to track, manage, and analyze. Okay. But like we said, you have to ensure your data source is maintained. Because if you don't do it, if you don't always cross-check on the integrity, you don't audit your data to ensure you have it right, you'll be tracking the wrong things. You'll be managing the wrong data, and you'll be analyzing the wrong data. And you'll go and present an analysis. See, like finance people, they're very good with these figures. So if you're not very clear, you're going to produce and you project a report, and you've really prepared for it. And the finance person just lifts at the end and like, oh, thank you so much. There's always that thing. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And, then they'll be like, you don't know where you got your figure from. And you see, the moment the finance people start talking about that thing, as a HR person, by the way, if you're not well equipped, there's a way it just deflates you, because you're like, now, language of numbers, we are not good at it. But now we are saying we are going to be good at it. That when a finance person challenges you, you can challenge them with your numbers. But you can only do it if you have data integrity and you've maintained your data. Cool. So now, allow me to just go through one or two tools. So there's one that is called Tebra. And this is a data visualization tool that is widely used in HR circles. And in case there's anybody in this forum who may have interacted with it, I think I will request if once I'm done with this, they can just tell us how they've been interacting with it and how it is, okay? So this tool allows you to pull data from various sources and then use a range of tools to create real-time analytic dashboards and visuals. For example, the dashboard below displays employee ratings around the 9-box talent rating report. So this tool, in case you have embraced talent management, it's able to pick up for you, and this is what will come up on your dashboard. Okay. So these are going to come up on your dashboard. And like you can see, this is a 9 grade for performance management. And this is whereby you plot. So you can imagine, okay, most of us, before we embrace technology, it's like you'd have like a spreadsheet and you'll map your staff. So you'll have the learner, you'll have the emerging star, you'll have the star, the emerging star, based on whatever attributes, and you have a discussion. And I know like most of the organizations, this is done by a committee because again, you want objectivity in the process. So once you've done this, so the system will, since it's online, so maybe we'll be in a meeting based on how we want to do it. Then we run a report. So at a go, you can be able to know how many stars you have. So from this summary, we have 220 stars. So now for illustration's sake, allow me to ask, you've presented this and you're like, no, in terms of our talent management, we're very okay. We know in case of anything, we have 220 stars. So we know we're good. We have 162 emerging stars. So in terms of succession planning, we are good at it. So we know we are good. We also have the potential. We have another 237. So you can see in terms of talent, we're not badly off. So in case we put very good employee development plans, then as an organization, we know we are headed to the right place. Then somebody will just come up and ask you, out of the 237, how many of them are in finance, or how many of them are maybe in manufacturing? So you can imagine if you don't have your data analytics right, you see, you've already given a very beautiful presentation. Then you'll be like, oh my goodness, I didn't think about that, you know? So, and that's what I'm talking about analytics. You have to get it and go deeper, you know, go out, spread the wings. Don't just go to the basic or the general information. So as you present this data, and with this system, since it's a tool that is there, if somebody is going to ask you about the emerging stars, there's 237, it's a click of a button. You'll be able to see the 237, how they've been distributed in the functions, how they've been distributed in terms of demographics. So you're able to know this is their age. You're also able to know how long have they been there. Because you may realize maybe all your stars came last month, which again, now that will show there's a problem somewhere. And even somebody will even doubt is like, if they've been here for a month, they even serving their probation. Yeah. So you see now, and you see the beauty of these tools, they help you know if there's a mistake or if your data is the integrity of your data. Because you realize like somebody is a star and they've been working with you for 6 months. As the HR specialist, I'll ask myself a question. We all know the learning curve. So within 6 months, you're plotting somebody as a star in something, and they've never worked with us before. Then for me, I think I'll feel there's a gap somewhere. Because within 6 months, how have you determined that they're stars? And of course, that goes back to the requirements and the features we're talking about. Okay. So now this is how it's going to be when you're looking at your talent management. And like you can see from this employee ratings, we have 1% of our staff, that is 22 members, are in the red. So we need to have action. And I'm sure the question that will be asked is, at what action are you planning? Yeah. So this is just an example of how we interact with analytics and the beauty of embracing people analytics. With a click of a button, you're able to, and you see this is computer generated, so you don't have to calculate. Yeah. You don't have to calculate anything. It just presents yourself. And this is just on talent management. This is a talent management framework. So you can imagine this can give on all other functions of HR. Yeah. Any question on that? Or we can ask questions at the end of the training. Then the next one is one that you call Visa. And this is one of the most robust people analytics tool in the market, because the tool allows you as an organization to understand everything about people in your organization in reference to their employee life cycle. This is the time from their onboarding to offboarding. And I know that people who are even not building up, even after you've left, they still want to know how you're doing. So this one, it helps you when somebody comes in as an employee. You're able to know when they got in, what is the employee life cycle? How does it evolve? And for purposes of training, we learn from each other every day. In case somebody was to ask you, what is the employee life cycle? What are you going to say? Who can be able to take us through an employee, just basically the employee life cycle? Like we said, in adult learning, all answers are correct. Anyone would want to try?
Let me give it a try.
Please do.
So these are when I'm coming up with an employee life cycle, I start from where did we first do the first shortlist of him including? When did we do the interviews? Now that is the onboarding process. After the recruitment, how did we communicate to him before he joined the organization? Then we did the orientation, and he settled in the organization in the position that we had recruited him for. So after how long did you maybe change him, maybe by promotion or changing the department? What led us to do such things, the promotion? Maybe if there's any change in terms of education level, how did he achieve, maybe in terms of trainings, you also update that. And also now his offboarding process, maybe when did he resign, he or she resign, or maybe when did we decide as an organization to terminate his contract, his or her contract, or dismiss him or her, the whole process of offboarding as well. I would say that is the life cycle.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. You got it right. You're very right. That is the life cycle of an employee. And just to summarize what you've said, I think this is very important for us, especially when you're putting in place a system, so that to ensure that all element of the life of this employee has been captured. So like you've rightly said, we start by the attraction. So we have a vacancy, so we need to attract people. So that is how it starts. So we attract you because you're looking for a person to fill position A. Then there's a recruitment process. So how we get in touch with you, how you're interviewed and all those, Then we have the onboarding. This now you're coming on board. How do we onboard you? Do we have like an induction program, or it is baptism by fire? I've heard most people say that, hey, mine was a baptism by fire. So is it baptism by fire? Or is it something that is that somebody you come, you go through an induction program, induction training for 1 or 2 months. I mean, sorry, not 1 or 2 weeks. Then also depending on the position, because you agree with me, induction program varies from the position, the level. And you find that most organizations will have 3 levels. So there's a junior level, there's a middle level, and the senior level of induction. So how is the induction taking place? And with this embracement of the HR or the people analytics, I find technology has really come in to assist in induction, whereby most people have embraced the online induction. And the beauty of the online induction is because that you're able to get, based on the number of staff that you have, you're able to get most of them having, in one place. Like in the past, you'd have, especially if you have branches, all of them have to come to maybe to the head office. By the time you organize the logistics, it becomes very complicated. But now you can have an online induction, then maybe for them to interact, you have the virtual tours, whereby they're able to see people in the offices, able to see the organization, you're able to see the branch. If it's Kisumu branch, there's a virtual tour for Kisumu branch. And, so they really interact. So they actually feel like they're part of it, So do you have an induction program? So how do you onboard them? They say first impressions are very important. And how you onboard people also has an element on how you're going to retain them. I've interacted with people who have told me the first day I went to that organization, the first day, I just knew I'd made a mistake. And the first day you go to a new job and you start looking for a job. You can imagine how disastrous that is. And in most cases, it's because of the onboarding process. Yeah. So how you undertake your onboarding process is very, very important, because that also determines how you're going to retain them. Then, of course, now the other after onboarding is how you retain them. What strategies do you have in place? The working environment, the working values, the working culture. Do you have work-life balance? Yeah. And like Jonathan has said, do we develop them? When somebody comes in, I came in 10 years ago. I came in as a HRO. 20 years, not even a single development training. Of course, I tell staff and I encourage staff and I challenge them. It is two-way. If the organization is not developing you, also you can develop yourself. But it is our responsibility as HR to coach these people, to mentor them. So at least they're also able to just build themselves. And developing is not just about even the roles. I came in as a HR clerk. All I do is just input. Nothing has developed, even in terms of my role. Even just having a simple HR system. At least I say nowadays, I used to do data entry for Excel. Now I have a system. Development is in various. Because people want to develop in all areas of their careers and also in their personal lives. So that development is very important. So in the life cycle of an employee, and I always encourage us as HR people, when you look at the development, let's not just look at the development of the organization, because we are very good. We focus, we want to grow in the next 5 years. We want to go where we want, we want to be the global, the international, the leader. But do you ever think about your employees? Currently, I know most of us are struggling with the mental wellness of our staff. What are we doing to ensure that we are developing them mentally so that in case these challenges come, then they are able to embrace them? And allow me to use an example because it's in the public domain. I saw an organization, a leading corporate. I think they're planning on a retrenchment. And I saw the communication that they've put there, and I was really, really impressed, because one of the things they've said is that as much as they're having retrenchment, of course, it's come because of the dynamics. All of us understand the business operation has become, so much is changing. So at times we need to transform things. And one of the things they've said is that they're going to give mental support to all the staffs who are leaving. And then the thing that I really loved, they said that between now and December, you're still going to enjoy your medical cover as it was. So you see, that helps. You've developed this, for me, I feel this person, even as they're leaving, they'll be a happy leaver. The offboarding has been done in such a way that you're living happily. You're like, wow, I'll enjoy my medical for 6 months. And maybe you may be surprised percentage of those people who will leave will lose that medical, because maybe some of them will go, they get new jobs. So when they get new jobs, they'll have new medical covers. But already you've given them that assurance that within the next 6 months, since we're in June, the next 6 months, your medical cover will run until December 2024. So if this person is somebody who has a family, at least one, they know mentally, medically, they're covered. And of course, the medical cover is a good cover. They're going to give you the support. The mental support is there. They're going to work with you. And they've given the journey that they're going to work with staff. So that is the offboarding that we're talking about. Because you find some of us, HR, especially when the separation was not a very positive separation, or when there's those redundancies, as much as there's a labor requirement, we're like, as far as we've paid you within nobody cares what happens. And it's unfortunate to find after some people have left an organization, some of them, the kind of life they live is very miserable. But that is on the offboarding. So what have you put on the offboarding? Do you have a support mechanism? And especially for these exits and planned exits. Because maybe somebody had said, I'm going to work in this organization until my retirement. Then something comes and you have to be separated. Like, now allow me to use this example because it is something that is in the public domain. There was, because you're HR people, you have to start you have to predict the problems that may come. There was a suggestion that the retirement age maybe is reduced. Even for us as HR, at times we review our policies and we say, but then I think our retirement policy is 60 or 65. Why can't we review it to 60? Maybe somebody has focused, I'm going to work until I'm 65. Then from nowhere, you tell this person, you're going to work until 60. That 5 years, have you thought about it? How is your offboarding process? Or you don't care, or do you have the don't care attitude? An effective HR analytics should think about that, because that is the only way you're going to have happy liver. And like we're saying, it's a life cycle. If a happy liver leaves, Next time you're attracting, you'll get good people or people who want to come to that organization. So that is how the life cycle is all about, you know, from the attraction to the offboarding, and what we want to achieve as HR is whereby we are having happy leavers. Okay, then we have another called Chat Hub, and this has advanced from an organization chat software to a people analytics solution, and it provides a comprehensive package from understanding diversity, compensation, attrition, workforce planning, and all important HR metrics. And like you can see, all these are we're achieving the same thing, but in different ways. So this is also another tool that in case that is a way that you want to go get off shelf, then you can be able to get this, and it's going to be able to serve the purpose. Okay. Then we've discussed this. I think we've agreed, and we've said we discussed about the off-shelf and the off-shelf. And now we go to the next one, whereby we're talking about gathering a team. Because like I said, you can see from this it's not just something that one person can do, because there's so many things, like not based on the interaction that we're doing and the brainstorming that we're doing on the annual turnover. You can see that many things that came from different people. So if you say you do it on your own, then you're going to have a problem, because you may not be able to come up with everything. You will maybe forget some things, but you need a team. And again, we have the executive people and the HR specialists. And now at this point, my assumption is that you've sold your idea, and now we are headed to implementing our successful people analytics system. So you're going to gather a team, and you're going to define their roles. Okay. So this is whereby we are choosing the right people. And the people will help us determine, are we going to get internally, externally, and what tools do we require? But you see, the tools can help you develop, you know. So of course, we're looking at the budget. Yes. And we'll have vendors. I mean, very many people who want to sell these systems off the shelf, the options, the subscription plans. Therefore, choosing the right people analytics tools can often seem like a rather difficult task. It is not easy, because you really have to go deep. Because if you don't make the right decision, then what is going to happen? You're going to invest on something, and when it doesn't work, you'll be asked difficult questions that you may not be able to answer. Therefore, one of the things that we need to look at is, one, the team has to look, because you know you have a team. And I tell people, when you're embracing a HR system, kindly don't do it on your own, and get a team from different functions. Let the HR person be the lead, but get people from different functions. Key, ensure you have a HR person. I always encourage, have a finance person, because those people, somehow, when you know, cost will be there. IT, definitely there's so many things that IT will require, because the people who are going to develop this system. Okay. So one of the things that you want to understand is, does it have a working HR dashboard? So to get started with people analytics, use basic dashboards that allows you to capture, aggregate, and visualize data. So in your team, we'll be asking ourselves, does this give us that? Are we able to visualize? Or how is the interaction? Is it friendly? And we are told that tools like BI, Tableau, and Allkey allow easy use and ease of data access. With level 1 requirement, your priority should be to keep your people and analytics as simple as possible. So all this, there may be technical terms. That is why you may require an IT person Because at the end of the day, you want a system that is going to add value to you and also become very easy to people or to the employees as they're interacting with them, with the system. And I'll even just give you a very good example. Most organizations have embraced the online recruitment. And there's some recruitments, if you go to their recruitment portal, it is so easy. But there are some, when you do the summary of the applicants, the incomplete applicants are so many because it is so cumbersome. It is so annoying. So what will happen is somebody, maybe there are those people who look for jobs just, you're really not very desperate for a job. You're like, really? If they can't just get a simple recruitment portal, surely, what kind of organization is this? And they stop. And that's why when you run a report of the incomplete applicants, don't say that, no, maybe they didn't have data, they didn't. No. In most cases, it's because maybe it is so complicated. It is, and this is also a reflection of the organization, because if you have a very complicated recruitment portal, then how about the other system? They are equally very complicated. And as I always encourage HR practitioners, if you have a system, you have the leave management, ensure you as a staff, disengage yourself from the HR and become the staff. Because I always tell people, I'm a HR person, but I'm also an employee of this organization. So become an employee and ask yourself, me as an employee, or me as a person who will be looking for a job, if I'm interacting with this system, is it friendly or will it annoy me? Yeah. So, but now with the tools, they help you get to pick the one that works best for you and able to incorporate it internally. The other level that the team need to ask themselves is that, is it an insightful HR dashboard? Yeah. Whereby you may have a steady dose of relevant data and need basic insights to analyze better and more to make more stronger decisions. Like I say, data, there's power in data. So you're asking yourself, my dashboard, does it help me get the data that I require? And that's why the team is important. Because for me, as a finance person, this is what I want to see from that dashboard. From an IT person, they're like, how can we plan it? How can it be arranged? Maybe you have somebody from, let's say, the marketing, the ward, all these. Always have a team that has, if you can, of course, again, don't get a whole, maybe like 20, the more again you are in a team, implementation team, at times it becomes very difficult. But try as much as possible to ensure that most functions have been incorporated in this team, because they're the people who are going to be using that system. If it is marketing, they're the people who are going to be using that system to analyze how the marketing plan is going on. So they need to be able to see and say, oh yeah, but this is going to be able to help me as a marketing manager or the head of marketing to be able to analyze my team. If it is the corporate, they want to see the brand, how is it doing? How is our brand as a corporate doing, So ensure that you have teams from different functions, because that is the only way you'll ensure that everybody is incorporated and the system or the tool that you're going to put in place, it is going to serve everyone. Level 3, a predictive HR dashboard. This is whereby your organization is at that requirement level where you seek not only to analyze data, but to also make intuitive predictions based on upcoming trends. These tools help you study behavior in a way that you can predict the next course of action. You agree with me? This is not something that you as a person can do it. You will require a team to help you do it. Because if you do it on your own, then you can be assured that you're going to miss out on so many things, yeah? And especially when looking about predicting, making decisions in the future. If I'm not a marketer, and I know we have KPIs for the marketers or for the sales team, I'm not a sales person and I've not incorporated anybody from sales. I don't know the trends. You know, we are told when you're introducing a product, you don't expect it to get a buy immediately. So there's that phase. There's a product life cycle. So if you're developing a system that does not give room, that if you're evaluating a salesperson, then the same way you're evaluating them when they've worked for 1 year is the same way you're evaluating them when they're introducing the product, then there'll be a gap. But you as a HR person may not have that information, but because you have a person from that function who understands, they're going to help you to ensure that whatever you put in place, the infrastructure that you're going to put in place will ensure that nothing is left unattended or nothing is left for chance. Okay. So now once you've agreed on that, you've done the 3 levels, you've ensured that you have a predictive HR dashboard, because when you have a people analytics, this will be for everybody, it's not just for HR. Then now we can go to the real gist of the matter, which now, okay. So the other way of trying to predict is whereby we are saying there's some systems. If I'm on LinkedIn and I update, let's say, my competencies, or I update like my qualifications, automatically it's linked. Will I know? As a HR, am I able to know? There's some organizations, like I said, who have really embraced these social media platforms. Okay, there's some organizations which are still growing, whereby maybe they're still not embraced, but especially most of the international organizations, they've really embraced this social media. So have they interrelated? Have you interlocked them that in case somebody updates their LinkedIn, as a HR person, I'm able to see, wow. Because again, it will also give you, and you're especially in predictive. Because if you see this person is always updating, you see they're trying to attract people to them. So meaning this person maybe actively looking for a job because they want to ensure that their profile is attractive and they can be able to be tracked. I mean, they can be able to get jobs. Prospective employers will be able to be captured by their profiles. Secondly, there are those employees who will always be writing, maybe there's a topic that is going on, and their input, maybe assume it's something about flexibility. I talked about the work flexibility. Maybe there's a discussion on that and it's going, what is their input? What are they saying? So it helps you have the mind of the employees real time. Yeah. And that can help you a big deal. So let's ensure that we have a team that is able to pick on these 3 levels so that by the time you get into the infrastructure of the tool, we have picked up any gap that may be there and we'll have a system that is going to be of value to the organization. So then we go to the next, which is the 4th. So which is now the main, I think we've done the 4th one, which is gathering a team. And this team, we have defined their roles. I always tell people when you put people in a team, in their project team, define their roles, let them know the scope. This is what is expected of you. This is what you should do. This is how far you should go. This is the expected outcome. Define their roles. If I'm the team lead, this is what I will be doing. If I've been made the secretariat for that team, this is the expectations of the executive from me. So once you've gathered the team, they know their responsibilities. Then now we go to the real system. And as I said, I took a lot of time on step 1 to 4, because that is where most of us HR people are involved. And that is where, since this is our project, this is our system, these are our HR analytics, so we have to get it right. So the moment we get it right, then even as we set up the data infrastructure, we're going to be sure that whatever is going to be done is as per our expectation. So I want to pause at that point before I go now to step number 5 to 8, because that is really technical. And this is more of what is done behind the scenes. And like most people will say, you might attend. So this I'll just go through very, not very in depth like I did with the top 4. So I want to pause there and ask in case there's anybody who has a question from step 1 to step 4. How about we selected our metrics, and the metrics we agree we are moving on. We are driving what the annual staff turnover, of course, having time and cost, looking at the time and cost. Yeah. The time and cost, we're looking at it, the annual staff turnover. We are able to define our data sources. And yes, Lorna?
Basically, na si kujitetea. Hope everybody can hear Swahili.
Yes, we can. Hello? Well, that was for you in another meeting. No problem. Sorry for that. Like I said, at times we touch on the unmute by mistake, so don't worry. We understand. Though I was very excited. I wanted to hear a question in Swahili, so I was very happy, but it seems it was one of those things that happened, so sorry for that. So like I was saying, on step 1, we did select our metrics. And for purposes of this training, we agreed we are going to drive on the annual staff turnover with time, cost, and the budget at the back of our minds. And this is just one KPI. So for you, as you interact, as you recommend systems, and you have to ensure all KPIs around the HR functions have been incorporated and taken care of. We looked at the data sources. And why it's important to look at the data sources is because as you come to the infrastructure, then the data people will be able to know where we're going to be getting this data. So we looked at our data internal, and we looked at the quality, where we're looking at the terms, where they left, their performance, are they good leavers, the functions, the demographics. We looked at the form of separation, whether it's dismissal, resignation, and all the other form of separations. Then we also looked at the external, we looked at the competition, and is this a project, the time frame for the project, so this may be a fixed term. We're also looking at the labor market, so it's available in the labor market in reference to what we have. Then the third step, we looked at the off-the-shelf and a customized tool. So these are decisions, and we said that there are factors that we need to look at. And budget being one of the key factors, the timelines, the training, and do we want to reinvent the wheel, or do you want to build our own system? And these factors are going to enable us make that decision. But I think key is that whatever system, whether it's your own build-on system or you're going to buy off-the-shelf system, then we have to ensure that we incorporate the life cycle of an employee, whereby we have KPIs and metrics around attraction. We have metrics and KPIs around recruitment. We have metrics and KPIs around the onboarding when they come in. On retention, our retention strategies, what are we doing? So we have metrics around that, and of course KPIs, and KPIs are the key performance indicators. Yes, we have metrics on how we're developing our staff. Then we also have metrics on the offboarding when they leave. Are they happy leavers when they leave? And key to note is that all these KPIs, these are what we as HR professionals are going to be evaluated on, because it shows the performance indicator. What is indicating that this system is working? Yeah. So we have to be very clear and very specific and very objective when we are setting our KPIs. And I always tell people, if you want to get it right, just use the SMART. When you're setting the KPIs, let them be smart. Let them be specific. Yeah. Let them be measurable. Let them be attainable. Like I said, you can go and say, oh yeah, I want, once you give me the budget, I'm going to have this system within a month. Is it practical? Is it attainable? Then after a month, you've not done anything and you're frustrated and there's pressure from the executive. And what you're saying is like, I don't know what's wrong with these people. They're just putting pressure on me. But it is you who gave an realistic KPI. So ensure that it's attainable, it's realistic, and it's time bound. You've given the time specific. Because again, when you leave it open, then at what point are you going to know whether you've succeeded or not? The beauty of the time frame is that it enables you to give a point at what you're going to be able to evaluate yourself. And like we had said earlier, it can be long term, it can be short term, it can be medium term, it can be daily. I know like the salespeople, they want to do the daily sales. So if you have sales in your organization, you have to ensure that the metrics that you have in place can be able to generate the sales per day, because that is a way of measuring performance. There are those that even an hour you want to know, maybe if in the stock market, you want to know within an hour, how is the shilling, So you have to ensure based on the business you are in and based on what you want to get out of it, the end, but the KPI. So the time frame is very, very important. And like we agreed is that if it's 1 year, you feed it from the 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, so that it is interconnected. Don't just put a KPI and say it is annual. So you're just calculating per year. Let it have attributes that should you decide you want to do it per week, it will prorate and give you the data or the analytics that you're looking for. Okay. So those are the KPIs. And now once you've agreed, that's on step number 3, then you gather a team that is going to sit down and look at the things that will work for us. The dashboard, is it interactive? Is it friendly? Does it encourage somebody to the experience? How is it? Okay. So once you've done that, so those are the things that I really needed us to put more emphasis on as HR people, because if you get it right, then you can be assured that once we hand it over to the IT people, it's going to be very, very easy to maneuver. So as I was saying that, summarizing the 4 steps, as I'm sure questions are running around. So in case you have any question, please feel free to shoot it. You can say it, you can unmute, or you can even type it on the chat, because now the next sessions from numbers 5 to 8 are very technical and they're more IT related. So before I go to number 5, any burning question? Do you have any burning question? Okay. So in that case, allow me to go to the next step. This is where by now we've put our house in order. As a HR specialist, you've put your house in order, you have everything in place, then now you're going to the setup. So the setup, this is where you're setting up the data infrastructure. And like you see from this, the roles, we have the data analyst, we have a data engineer, we have a developer, and their responsibility is setting up the tools, the warehouse configuration, and data marts implementation. Like you can see, these are very technical things that are IT related. That's why I said you have to ensure you have the right resource. Because if you're going to have a build on system, you need these people in place. Even if you're going to have off the shore and maybe you want to build on it, then you need to have these people in place. So what are they going to do? In this infrastructure stage, this is whereby they're going to, we call it the ETL, tools for data integration. This is whereby they want to extract, transform, and load. So you have your data. We have the HR system, you've gotten everything right. So the first thing is they're going to extract it. This is connecting to sources of information and retrieving it. We have a system. We have a new staff, we've put all their details, their date of birth, their date of their qualifications, when they joined in, the trainings and everything. So they connect that source of information and they put mechanism on how to retrieve it. Then once they've done that, they transform. The next level is transforming. This is whereby is a process of processing raw data and formatting it according to the predefined standards. Key to note is the predefined standards. That's why the first 4 stages are very, very important, because that is where you've defined. This IT person is not an HR expert. When you tell them about turnover, HR turnover, they don't even know what that means. So you have to really define. So in that transforming, they're doing it to your predefined standards, and data is transformed while being placed in a temporary storage or staging area. So I know I want turnover for 1 year. So they do their own, I call the IT people, they do their own magic and they have it ready. So when I want it is just to load it. Yeah. So this is loading transformed data into the warehouse where it can be queried and used for visualization, descriptive analytics level, and for drawing predictions or predictive level. Okay. So these levels, this is what they'll do at that level. So they have the data, so they put it ready for you. And they know this data is there. All the stuff, data has been put up. If it's leave, we've said entitlement is 30 days. You have, if you're a lady, you have the maternity leave. If you're a gentleman, you have the paternity leave. We have the adoption leave in case you want to adopt a child. We have the compensation leave. We have, sick leave, all those leaves. So everything is set. It has been extracted, it has been transformed, it has been loaded. It is ready for our use. Okay. And so this is the pictorial or visual way of how it's going to be. So you can see from the data sources where we are getting it from the social media. Like I said, there's some systems that have been linked to the employee social media account, the professional ones, of course. And this is done with the consent of the employee, because as you all know, we have the Data Protection Act. So if you've not gotten the consent, don't do it. Because if you do, then this employee can sue you. So you also have to ensure that as you're manipulating your data, as you're picking, in fact, nowadays they say even as you're collecting data, you have to say where you're collecting that data. And if you collect my data as an employee, and it is for our data, you want to make it as a data source for your internal use. If by any mistake I find my data out there, unless you're in that level, there's a level there, there's a number of the institutions, like not the KRAs of this world, the NSSF, the NHIF, those ones, they can have the data, but for the reason that you've said. So as you're mining your data, ensure you're in line with the Data Protection Act. Otherwise, we have a generation that is well informed. We have something called Google, so employees can always go to Google and know. So the social media, if you interact with the social media, ensure they know that you're actually getting information. We have the ERP HR module. We have the recruiting tools that give you data about an employee. Talent management solutions, like we saw earlier. We have the skill testing tools in case you have competencies. So that is the extraction, then goes to the transformation, you load, then you can see now the final one is the HR analytics, okay? So the next one is building a predictive model. Here is whereby you have the data analyst and the data scientist. And of course, is additional data collection, preparation, which is optional, model training, model deployment, okay? The central goal of this phase is to develop a model that provides the most accurate predictions for a given question. And there's a lot of calculations that come around it. That's why you require the experts in this area, so that you know that in case if they say X plus this equals to that, so it's not something that you just wake up and just assume that in the next 5 years, I'm predicting 1 and 2 and 3. You must show how you got to that level. Okay? And this is well done by the data scientist. That is find in this level, you require a data scientist, somebody who understands data, and somebody who is able to interpret data, and somebody who will be able to work with the data. And that's why they have to undergo what we call module training, so that they get to understand and they're able to put mechanisms or formulas that are going to help, algorithms that are going to help pick the historical data, whatever you're targeting, and be able to make a positive or a predictive attribute that even if you stand and talk about it, you can be assured that the margin of error will not be huge. Okay. So like you can see, it's really very technical. And that's why you require the IT people. But like I said earlier, it is based on what you have, the information that you have given them. Because what maybe you don't know is that will this employee quit in a given period or not? You know, for you to be able to predict that, you know, just something just wake up and say no, because maybe by then she'll be married, she'll not be married, she will be having no. It's just something, the historical way of looking at things, it is a system generated. Okay. Then now, once you've done that, and we're able to build a predictive model, and you agree with me, as you're developing a systems, when the challenges come, you get solutions. We go to the next step, which is developing end user interface. This is the interface. The interface is whereby the front end, when I'm using it, when I'm interacting with it, is it giving me a solution or is it just making my life impossible? Yeah. Okay. And is it able to choose from the sources? Does it manipulate the background data? Is it able to generate custom reports? Or when you get a report, you have to transfer it to Excel. Then again, you start doing some gymnastics, you know. How is that interface? You as a user, the interface, does it give you the results you're looking for? So that is the IT developing. So they have to ensure that the user phases, and that's how you find whenever you're developing a system, the IT will tell you this, we are in the testing, we're in the testing phase. There will always be a testing phase. And part of the things that you're going to be testing is the user interface. Is it friendly? Or I'm just looking for a simple report, but by the time I get it, I have gone like to 5 places. I'm sure even for websites, allow me to use some website. There's a website you can go, you just want to look for a simple, maybe even their location, where they're located. And by the time you get to get their location, you've gone like to 5 different places. That is what the interface is all about. When I look at a system like this, does it help me? Yeah. So as they're developing the interface, of course, the HR comes in because you're the person who's going to interact with it. And I tell people at times you separate yourself from the HR to the employee. So you assume if I'm the employee going to this system, will I get what I want? Yes. If I'm the HR specialist going into this system, will I get my reports? If an employee, I want to know the last time I went on leave. Can I be able to get it from the system? Or I have to go through. You know, and then the next thing I'm calling HR. Because one of the advantage of the system and one of the things that we want to achieve is at the moment you have these analytics, some of these simple things that people will call HR, they're able to pick them, they're able to generate. I can be able to generate my leave, how utilize my leave as a staff. I don't have to come to HR asking for like the pay slips. Is it able to generate the pay slip that in case I need my pay slip for next year, for last year, I don't have to go to HR unless I want it to be stamped so I think they can confirm. That is all about the interface. So as they're developing, they have to work with the HR person because at the end of the day, it is your system. IT comes in to support developing, but at the end of the day, the system is your HR. And that's what you find once the IT people are done with developing it, the HR metrics, they'll come and tell you, no, we are having the handover of your system. So ensure by the time it's been handed over, you're good to go and you're sure that I have the best HR analytics system that can ever be. Okay? Yeah, this is what I was saying, something that is ensure that you can be able to customize and make it have a nice to have features that will make it enjoyable. Okay. Then the last one is number 8, end user training. This is a role that is undertaken by the IT. And one of the things they do is that they have to develop a training strategy, implement onboarding tactics and technologies. So now we have everything. The system is running. As a HR specialist, you're happy with the interface that has been developed. You're happy with the models that have been developed. You're happy with the infrastructure. Then now you go to the training, because people have to be trained. You change the concept of change management. Maybe you've been doing this thing manually. No, we're going to do it online. It's going to be through data. We're going to be having reports generated automatically. We don't have to do a report, you calculate, then I add, it's going to be automated. So you have to undergo a user training. And the ideal is whereby first HR, you're trained on how your analytics will be or how the system is going to work. Then once you understand, then now you can start not training the other people. Because if you're trained with the other people, they'll ask questions that maybe even you may not answer. But if as a HR team have been trained, then also remember you have the implementation team. Gathering a team on step number 4. Also be trained together, because those are the people that in case you're stuck somewhere, especially in the implementation, you're able to consult each other. Okay? So the end user training is a must, since it's aimed at showing the new system, how it functions. And a piece of advice is to take into account user technical skill level before developing training approaches. You have a new training or a new system analytics that you're introducing at all levels. I'm sure based on, maybe some people have 4 levels, whereby the first level will be unskilled and skilled. Then from skilled, you have the low level, middle, and up. So in case you have unskilled level employees, they're also part of the system. The training that you're going to undertake with unskilled employees, you agree with me, is not the same kind of training that you're going to undertake with the skilled employees. You have to make it as simple as possible for the unskilled employee. Secondly, the first level skilled employees training isn't the same level as the senior, because senior, they're more strategic. They're looking at the strategy, they're looking at the future, So you have to ensure that the training approaches are different based on you may have a general one, yes, the general one, but ensure you also have not the approach that addresses the specific population. Okay? Even the language is important, because maybe somebody who is unskilled, we know very well English and Swahili are the working languages in Kenya. I know systems, HR system, I've interacted with the HR system that has Swahili. So when I go to Natafuta Kazi, that the recruitment, it is in Swahili. Tabakathi is, so just when you get in, you ask, preferred language, there's English, there's Swahili, and the other languages. There are so many other languages. So in your working environment, based on your population, based on the composition of your staff, if you have unskilled, they're very good at what they do, but maybe they don't know English. And we have them. But Swahili is a national language. So are they going to be able to interact? So you have to ensure that that interface allows for that. So there'll be English and Swahili. Yeah? Because that way, then people are able to understand. You put it in a language that they best understand, a language that they not get confused. And for you as a HR person, of course, at the end of the day, this is what I want to achieve. So in case you do the English, then I think it's also very exciting, because it also opens your mind. It also helps you when you're interacting with these people. It gives you new Swahili words. You get to know what is this in Swahili. Okay, so, and trust me, if you interact with that system, it's very enjoyable, because things that you don't know what they are called in Swahili, automatically they come in. Okay. So now, as we are concluding, one of the expectation from one of the participants was that they already currently have HR analytics. But they don't want to know, what are these new trends? What are we going to do to ensure that our HR system is still relevant? Our analytics, people analytics are still relevant. How are we going to build onto them? So which are these upcoming trends? And I always encourage us as HR people to always ensure that we embrace ourselves with the trends that are coming. Because otherwise you'll be in the old school and you're losing people just because you guys are not embracing the new trends. Okay? So allow me in conclusion to just talk about the 3 trends that are the top and that are shaping the people analytics in itself and how it interacts with the business. Because at the end of the day, we are there to support the business. So 1 is transforming what HR is and does. You agree with me? With people analytics, we're changing how recruitment is conducted. We are changing how performance is measured, how compensation is planned or growth is mapped, and how learning and retention can be managed better. People analytics is quickly changing how HR operates. And I agree. And that's why we're even in this training today, because it is transforming. You cannot continue recruiting the same way you recruited 5-10 years ago. Now we can, in the past, for somebody to come and apply for a job, for you to attract, you have to drop your application at a certain place, you had to post. And I remember I worked at a place whereby since applications were being posted, when it closed, 2 days after closure, they would come with sacks and sacks and sacks of applications. But we are transforming that. Most people now have embraced online. You can drop. Very few people will post a job applicants. Most people will drop. We have the emails. Do you have a recruitment email whereby somebody is just apply via email? They don't have to come physically. And those are the things that we are transforming. And let me tell you one thing, my dear colleagues, if you don't transform with the trades, they're going to transform you. So it's better you transform with them. How we measure performance. In the past performance appraisal, we had to sit and you just do it online, so much is happening. So 1, we have to transform all our HR processes. They're transforming. And I said earlier, in case you want to know if you're on the right track, just look at the employee life cycle, and that will give you an indication on what you need to put in place. And the life cycle, they start from attraction to the offboarding. Okay. So the next is transforming HR business interactions. Business today need to be able to make sense of seemingly unrelated data streams and find meaning correlation and maybe even interdependence between one or more factors to predict and manage work better. People analytics has the potential to provide actionable recommendations to enable strategic planning and execution processes. And that is why you realize nowadays we have strategic HR business partners. Yeah. Because as a HR person, you have to understand the business. Gone is that time when a HR, you're known for hiring and firing. Now HR is being placed on the table. And when a discussion somewhere and they're saying, most HR people, even in most organizations, you've realized when the CEO is not there, HR will always be like, they know everything. And most HR professionals are now going to becoming CEOs because we have embraced the element of becoming business partners. And why we have a great advantage is because business is driven by people. HR, our business in an organization is people. So you can imagine if you understand people and you understand business, you are a very rich resource. So we have to transform ourselves, understand the business. When we sit on that table, when you're called in the boardroom, discuss business. Don't just discuss about asking for more salaries, ask for increments when you're discussing about business, contribute on the business, get to understand the business. And you realize even for our business partner. We even have a course on the HR business, certified HR business partner. It challenges you to be a member of that business, to understand how the business operates. That today, even if ahead of a certain product, maybe they are not in, you can go and sit in and move and understand and challenge those people. Because that is the only way, even when they come and bring requests to you, you're able to tell them, look at the numbers. This is what we are doing. Look at their sales. The sales are declining. Ask hard questions. But you can only ask that if you understand the business. Understand the business, understand the reports that are given, understand how, and understanding the business is even how finance is working, how marketing is working, how IT is working, understand and become partner. Whereby they look at you as that partner we can work with. If you're stuck, we can work with you. I have been in forums whereby the HR business partner is even making presentation. It's a marketing. They've gone for a marketing meeting, and the HR business partner is the one who's making the presentation. So we need to get her from that whereby if it's a marketer, it's a marketer. Understand it. Know that business well, because that way it gives you an edge. It gives you a clear understanding. It helps you sell your people agenda because you'll be understanding the business. And understanding the business means you also understand the stakeholders. So if you have clients, you understand the clients. So you know this client understands like this and this and this. So even at your hiring, you can be able to say, because of our client base, I feel this is what we need to do. So you're on the same level with it. If it's operations manager, you're able to understand. So that is one thing that is really transforming. Whereby, and I'm sure you've seen of late, every organization, especially business organizations that are in profit, most of them are having HR business partners. Yeah. The last one is about transforming the HR employee relations, because employee expectations today are consumer grade. People analytics is providing organization with a ramp to upgrade the employee experience, whereby we want to ensure that every interaction that a candidate or an employee has with an organization is a data point and can be utilized for insightful insights or interesting insights. And like I said, like social media is one of it. Who do you interact with? Even when you have like the tea, when people are having their tea, all those things, you have to ensure that relationship, you look for mechanisms of tapping all that information, because that information is what is going to help you as a HR expert to be able to put in place strategies or mechanisms that are going to enable you to have good retention strategies to ensure that when you're looking for people, you're able to attract them, that your employer brand is improving. Yeah, so those are the three things that I would say in terms of the trends that we as HR people have to be transformative and embrace them. We have to ensure that our HR employee relationship is positive. Let's get out from that notion that employee believe that HR is just to hire and fire. Pick up a phone call, and when you call an employee, you can laugh. Not whereby you call an employee and they're like, oh my goodness, what have I done this time? Because there's no that relationship. So we have to look for mechanisms. We have to look for strategies. And HR analytics is going to help us. Because if you're having a real-time experience, staff is able to just chat and you're able to give them feedback. If something is coming up, they were like, no, we have these days that come up. There's environmental day, there's this day. Like, no, last week we had environmental day. What have you done to embrace that environment in the work area? I know, like, there's some people that day, I went somewhere and they were saying that day, everybody had to be green, they had a dress code of green because green is a nature. And you see now when you're walking around and you're giving the best department that has dressed in green, you see you're interacting and relationship becomes, it's not just employee and it is a well-defined relationship that this person will come and comfortably tell you what is happening. And you'll agree with me, most organizations, I know there's something called about the suggestion boxes. For me, I say it's a good thing, but if you can embrace open plan, whereby the staff comes and tells you, this is what is happening. We don't have to wait and go to the suggestion boxes, because how objective are they? The people will put things there because maybe they want to, they're malicious. But that can only work if we have a positive HR and employee relationship. So kindly, that is one of the other ways. So like I said, the three of them are, we have to transform what we are doing. HR is not just about paperwork. Let's add value to what we are doing. And we can only add value by giving the right analytics, by giving data that helps in making decisions. Let us have HR business interactions. Let's understand the business. Let us have a seat on the table and talk business, talk numbers and business, people and business. We manage people. So you can imagine you manage people and you understand the business. You'll get into that boardroom. People are just looking at you and you're like, every time you're trying, can so-and-so chair for us? Because they know you understand. And people will be asking, what is your view? You know, they say if you go to a meeting and nobody ever asks for your view, there are two ways. Either they ask for your view because they know you understand it so well. And in most cases, after everybody has said, and the chair says, but the excellent, what is your view on that? You know, that means they want you to conclude. But if you're just there and someone say, hey, I know you've been so quiet, what do you think about it? You know, that is not very positive. So, but if you understand the business, they will feel you're part of it. They will not look at you as HR. They will look at you as a business partner. So that is another way of that we as HR people have to transform ourselves. And the final one is have a positive HR employee relationship. Let's build positive relationships whereby people take HR as colleagues, not as policemen, not as those people who just call us for disciplinary, but as colleagues and as team members. But all this can only happen if we have the right strategies in place. And one of the strategies that has worked on employee relations is when you have a robust employee engagement activities. They help a lot. Yeah. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. And I open it up for questions. You know, we started at 15 minutes late, so we are good on time. So my dear colleagues, that is my presentation. That is my input. So now it is my hope that we've learned something. And I'll be requesting that in case you have any question, kindly feel free to ask. Any question, any comment?
I think for me, as we close, is to thank you for the 360-degree approach. We appreciate a lot of examples given, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leah. That is appreciated. Thank you so much. I also really appreciate your input, Leah. I think you've been very, very, you've contributed a lot. I really appreciate. It's also, it encourages the facilitator when people interact and they give examples. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your input and the input of everyone else. Evelyn Moremi, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you so much, Evelyn. And just to allow me to make a comment, I'm sure maybe those of us who joined us as we are continuing, is that you can always access all this. It is recorded, like we said, it is recorded. So you have the login, so you can always interact with them. In case it's an area that really you will not get or you want more information, you can always go to the website that has been put on the chat. So you can always interact and get to understand more and get to internalize more. Well, thank you so much. I love the wonderful positive inputs. Thank you, Lucy. Great training. Appreciate. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Absolutely, yes, yeah. We need to have something more to offer. Not just being that HR, that it's recruitment, advertisement, interviews, disciplinary. Now give data as a business partner. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I believe that after this, when you go back to your work areas, it's going to be different. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much. So in case there's no any other comment, yes, it has been posted. Yeah, let's all, from HR to CEO, that is what we should all be targeting. That should be our career growth. And I believe if we embrace the business, understand the people, have the right analytics, nothing is going to stop us from getting to those positions. But it's all up to you. So, and I believe that from this training, we're going to be able to successfully implement the people analytics in our organizations. Thank you. I love the comments. And if you look at the chat, we've posted. So the website is https://achrp.org. So you can see all the trainings that have come in. And from there, you're also able to interact with this training and get even other trainings that have taken place. So thank you once again, great people. Let's continue interacting and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be able to continue viewing and getting to see what we're doing, making comments so that we can grow this HR family together. Okay. So as I close, it's just to tell you how you're going to log in. Once you log in, you're going to log in with your email address, and the password is on the chat, and it's HR 2021. So with that, my dear colleagues, allow me to thank you once again and to wish you a wonderful weekend. Looking forward to us meeting in our next training.